They will never return to their former state of ignorance. They will live a completely new life, as if reborn, granted an extra life. The gap between people is determined by the level of enlightenment in their minds. Ancient Wisdom Lesson warmly greets you. Today, let us explore 7 enlightenment stories together to help you instantly grasp the truth and no longer feel lost. If you can understand the following stories, it proves you have attained enlightenment. If you do not understand, it is also fine. It simply means your blessings have not yet arrived. The power of the present moment. In a remote mountain temple, there lived an old monk and a young novice. The old monk was enlightened, but the novice was not. One day, the novice asked his master, "Master, what is the difference before and after enlightenment?" "Before enlightenment, I went up the mountain to chop wood and cook rice. And after enlightenment, I go up the mountain to chop wood and cook rice." The novice, confused, replied, "So, there is no difference at all before and after enlightenment?" "Before enlightenment, I went up the mountain to chop wood, chopped wood to make a fire, made a fire to cook rice. After enlightenment, going up the mountain is simply going up the mountain. Chopping wood is simply chopping wood. Making a fire is simply making a fire. Cooking rice is simply cooking rice." The novice became even more doubtful. "So, what is the difference? If you go up the mountain only to chop wood, the journey up the mountain will be very painful. If you chop wood only to cook rice, the act of chopping wood will also be very tiring. It is like working only to earn money. The work will feel very hard. But if working is simply working, you will no longer feel suffering. When you go up the mountain only to chop wood, you will miss the beautiful scenery along the way. But if going up the mountain is simply going up the mountain, you will never tire of the beautiful views on the path. Life is the same. If a person lives only to study for a good job, works only to earn money, earns money only to buy a house and car, and buys a house and car only to show off success, and success only leads to buying a better house and car in an endless cycle, then their entire life will be lived in suffering. Those who achieve great success focus their minds on one thing. Those who stray focus on endless desires. Ordinary people are mindless and witless. All suffering stems from not understanding human nature, and all poverty stems from not understanding emotions. Once, Master Yuan Shao went out. He was extremely hungry and thirsty. Where could he find water to drink? When he was desperately thirsty, he saw a puddle of water by the roadside and bent down to drink. Instantly, the water tasted as sweet as nectar. He drank his fill, feeling incredibly refreshed. Master Yuan Shao sat under a tree to rest for the night, planning to continue his journey at dawn. When daybreak came, he returned to the puddle where he had drunk the night before and was shocked to find it full of dead insects and animals. A feeling of disgust washed over him. He wanted to vomit up all the water he had drunk the previous night. In his mind's eye, the sweet taste of the rainwater from last night and the revulsion he felt now clashed. At that very moment, he suddenly became enlightened. The sweetness of the rainwater last night and the disgust at the rotting corpses this morning were merely products of his discriminating mind. From then on, he realized that all things in the world, good or bad, are simply different perceptions of people. This is exactly what the Avatamsaka Sutra mentions. If you wish to understand clearly, everything is illuminated by the mind. The mind's form is the Dharma body's form. The mind's appearance is the Dharma body's appearance. Should one strive or live carelessly? A disciple asked Zhuangzi in society. How does one stand firm? What attitude should one maintain? We will learn as we walk. They reached the foot of a mountain and encountered a group of people cutting wood. Notice, what are the characteristics of the trees being cut down? The students replied, the trees being cut down are usually very straight and can be used for beams, chairs, or boats. They are all useful trees. Then pay attention to that large tree by the roadside. Why does no one cut it down? One student ran to ask the woodcutter, don't you know this tree? This is the Huichun tree. It smells terrible, its trunk is crooked, its grain is uneven, and it is completely useless. I cut down useful trees. Why would I cut down a useless one? That is why this tree has grown so large and lush. This is the law of nature. Useful trees are cut down. Useless trees are left to grow. Talented people are often overworked, while untalented people remain safe until retirement. The students, upon hearing this, said, "Then we should hold back, not show off too much talent to avoid being exploited and exhausted." Zhuangzi laughed. "You have only understood half. There is an even more important half." They then continued climbing the mountain. There, many geese were being raised. The host, seeing Zhuangzi, invited him, "Don't leave today, I will treat you to goose stewed in an iron pot." Zhuangzi and his students stood and observed as the host chased the geese to select a suitable one. The scene was chaotic, with geese running wildly in panic. But there was only one goose standing calmly and proudly by the door. Strangely, the host did not catch this goose. The students hurriedly asked the host the reason. "You don't know. Among these geese, some can cry. This goose cries beautifully, its voice like a stream flowing through high mountains, sounding like music." The geese with no talent are the ones stewed and eaten. Talented geese are kept, untalented ones are killed. What do you learn from this? We must cultivate our talents, become capable, because those without talent are eliminated. Talented people are kept and developed. Now, think back. What did you just say? Useful trees are cut down, useless trees live healthily. Now you say talented people are kept. Isn't that a contradiction? So, should one be useful or useless? Zhuangzi explained, "The key lies in knowing the right time and circumstance." As the idiom "the dragon and the snake adapt to change" suggests, a true gentleman must possess the wisdom of both the dragon and the snake. When the time is right, become a dragon, soaring thousands of miles, displaying your talent, creating wonders. But when conditions are unfavorable, like during a drought when the land is parched, become a snake, hiding in the grass, living with crickets, dwelling in muddy holes, eating simple food to survive. Do not feel aggrieved or resentful just because you were once a dragon. When encountering leaders who envy talent, like the woodcutter, hold back. When encountering leaders who value talent, like the goose owner, whether to hold back or shine depends entirely on your surrounding environment. Be as flexible as a dragon and a snake, adapting to circumstances. Learn and progress together. The empty boat mentality. Do you believe it? 98% of a person's fate is not determined by circumstances, but by their mindset. In reality, a person's entire life is paid for by their own mindset, but we often do not realize it. Have you ever heard of the empty boat theory, which existed over 2,000 years ago? In the book of Zhuangzi, there is a small story. A man's boat sank in a river, and he saw another boat heading straight for him. He shouted warnings, but no one responded. He began cursing the boatman. But when the boats collided, he discovered it was an empty boat with no one aboard. His anger vanished. He no longer felt furious. In truth, whether one gets angry or not entirely depends on whether there is someone on the boat. Most of the time, you are angry not because others have greatly harmed you, but because you cannot accept their behavior. Many people often complain, "How can you drive like that?" These outbursts stem from the assumption you have already made in your heart that others must behave according to your own values. When they do not meet your expectations, you feel uncomfortable. The more they go against your values, the angrier you become. You would not get angry at a 5-year-old child. You would not get angry at a kitten stepping on your foot. This is because, in these cases, you do not impose your values on the other party. You do not expect them to follow your rules. You should regard people who upset you as empty boats with no one steering them. Understand that you cannot demand others to align with your values. You will no longer be hurt by anyone. Wang Yangming once said, "A person seems to handle many different matters in their lifetime, but in reality, they are always only their own emotions and perceptions." Suppose you drive a $50,000 car to a party where people are discussing cars. They say $50,000 cars are not worth driving, are not beautiful, and their logos look unimpressive. How would you feel? But if you drive a $1 billion car and hear the same words, how would your perception differ? The party is the same party. The people speaking are the same people. The words have not changed. So why does your perception differ? Think of a person selling durian. For 30 years they have sold durian at a street corner. Some people love the taste of durian, but the crowd still comes and goes. Selling durian is still enough to make a living. Those who like durian continue to eat it, those who dislike it still dislike it. If you understand this principle, you will achieve true maturity. In reality, aside from sensations caused by physical illness, all other perceptions are merely illusions of your mind and do not truly exist. They stem from delusions and activities outside human nature. The external material world is singular, but each person harbors a unique world within their heart. This is what Wang Yangming called, "No object exists outside the mind. There is no true material substance. The sky is just the sky. It does not represent freedom. The sea is just the sea. It has nothing to do with tolerance." A $50,000 car or a $1 billion car is still just a car. It does not represent your character or wisdom. When you see through this essence, you will calmly navigate all emotions, no longer suffering from personal perceptions. At that point, a person becomes so strong that nothing can defeat them. They can interact with everyone and handle any problem. This is the power derived from Wang Yangming's sincerity of heart. If you know failure is inevitable, suppose your house is on fire. Someone carries a bucket of water to put out the fire, while others just stand by with their arms crossed, watching. In the end, even the person with the bucket of water fails to extinguish the fire, and the house is still burned to the ground. Do you think the person with the bucket of water and the person standing by are the same? Mosey once faced a similar issue. He traveled everywhere, preaching the doctrine of universal love and opposing mutual harm. Sir, you travel everywhere, passionately preaching about universal love. But can you change this world? Standing outside, coldly observing life without intervening will the world become worse because of me? It seems the world is not better because of you, nor worse because of me. So what is the difference between you and me? This question is actually sarcastic, implying that knowing you cannot succeed but still trying is worthless. One person has tried their best but achieved no result. Another person from the beginning saw that it was impossible and therefore did nothing. Which of the two is more valuable? If you are pondering this, see how Mosey answered. Suppose a house is on fire. I carry a bucket of water to help while you just stand by with your arms crossed, watching. In the end, the house burns down. Are we the same? If you think we are, I will ask you another question. What if that house was yours? At that moment, you would think differently. When your house is on fire, if your neighbors all bring water to help, even if they fail to extinguish the fire, your heart will still feel warm. But if everyone just stands by with their arms crossed, your heart will turn cold. So why do we need to have an attitude? An attitude is not necessarily to achieve a result, but to bring hope to the world. Attitude creates warmth for this life. When attitude disappears, the world becomes cold. When spring comes, as long as heaven and earth grant the world warmth, everything will naturally bloom, grass will sprout, and crops will grow. The climate changes, and the world becomes more vibrant. If you want your life to be like spring, you must maintain an attitude. Attitude is the vitality of your life, just as warmth is the vitality of heaven and earth. For a task that does not succeed, between not succeeding without effort and not succeeding after effort, though the result is the same, the essence is different. Effort brings experience, and that experience exists within the result. Failure after effort is failure with passion. It is like embers, it can ignite again. Enduring suffering does not lead to enlightenment. The first person to attain enlightenment was Shakyamuni Buddha. Under what circumstances did he become enlightened? When he was still a prince, he once passed through the east gate of the palace and saw an old, frail man. At the south gate, he saw a sick man lying on the ground. He then encountered a person who had just died, with their family weeping in pain beside them. That night, Prince Shakyamuni could not sleep. He tossed and turned, wondering why the world was filled with so much suffering. He decided to renounce his luxurious life and high status, quietly leaving the palace, shaving his head, and choosing the path of asceticism to seek the truth. His name was changed to Shakyamuni. His real name was Siddhartha Gautama. He began his journey to find answers, setting foot in northern Nepal at the foot of the Himalayas. At the foot of the Himalayas there was a forest called the Forest of Asceticism. Many ascetic monks had come there to meditate and practice asceticism. Some hung themselves upside down, some held their arms up continuously without lowering them, some buried half their bodies in the ground. They believed the way to avoid suffering was to counter suffering with suffering, so they chose asceticism. Shakyamuni also joined the ascetics. He meditated every day, eating only one small meal a day. This ascetic life lasted for 6 years. One day he fainted beside the forest. At that moment he heard the sound of a lute from afar. The lute taught him a lesson. If the strings are too tight, the sound becomes shrill. If the strings are too loose, the sound is out of tune. Being too indulgent in pleasure causes one to be caught in a cycle of desire. Being too focused on asceticism traps one in a struggle between gain and loss. Only by moving away from both extremes can one easily realize the truth. From then on, Shakyamuni abandoned asceticism and sought balance between the two extremes. He lived like an ordinary person, following nature. With this mindset, he went to Bodhi path field and sat under the Bodhi tree. He summarized his past experiences and made a vow. On the 7th night, as he gazed at the star-filled sky, he finally attained enlightenment, became a Buddha, and became the Buddha patriarch Shakyamuni. Afterward, he began to spread his knowledge and teachings to his first 5 disciples. However, he did not establish Buddhism himself. Buddhism was formed later by his followers. The most important point of enlightenment he conveyed was that enduring suffering does not lead to enlightenment. In society, praising hardship and pain is often the most vicious lie, turning suffering into inspirational stories to deceive. A woman 8 months pregnant still delivers packages in the rain. Or an 80-year-old man collecting scrap to support his 2 grandchildren. These stories constantly remind us that there are always people suffering more than us. But when we mature, we realize these stories are unnecessary. Plum blossoms emit fragrance because their nature is fragrant, not because they endure the cold. The story of the ugly duckling turning into a swan, or Cinderella being chosen by the prince, is not because they became excellent through suffering, but because they inherently possessed that value. The ugly duckling became a swan because it was, in fact, a swan. Cinderella was chosen by the prince because she was truly beautiful. Gold always shines because its nature is to shine. No matter how much you polish a stone, it cannot shine. Never believe that suffering is valuable because suffering is simply suffering. It does not bring success and is not worth pursuing. Do not seek inspiration from others' suffering. People living in suffering are not there for you to empathize with or to build your willpower. They are simply unable to avoid it. The enlightenment of the Buddha. What was Shakyamuni Buddha's main message upon enlightenment? It was to find 3 things: the origin of the universe, the origin of life, and, most importantly, how to eliminate all suffering. After enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, Shakyamuni Buddha's first words were, "All sentient beings in the world possess the wisdom and virtue of the Tathagata, but because of delusion and attachment, they cannot attain the truth." This statement indicates that all life is equal and has the potential for enlightenment. However, it is precisely because of delusion and attachment that people become ordinary mortals. The Buddha believed that the cause of suffering in sentient beings stems from reincarnation in the 6 realms. The root cause leading to reincarnation is the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. These are the fundamental causes that make all things suffer. To escape reincarnation and suffering, greed is the attachment to favorable conditions, always wanting to possess, not accepting if not obtained. Anger is resentment in the face of adversity, becoming angry and irrational when things do not go as desired, leading to impulsive actions. Ignorance is delusion, not understanding reason, unable to distinguish right from wrong, leading to mistaken perceptions and distorted truths. Shakyamuni also realized that the universe was not created by gods. There is no god or supreme being presiding over everything. Humans were not created by gods. When Bodhidharma arrived at Shaolin Temple, he saw many monks sitting in meditation. "What are you doing?" "We are meditating." "Why meditate?" "To become Buddhas, to see the true nature of the mind." Bodhidharma said nothing. The next day he picked up a piece of tile and began grinding it on a stone. The others, surprised, asked, "What are you doing?" He replied, "I am grinding this tile to make a mirror." No matter how much you grind, tile cannot become a mirror. Bodhidharma answered, if grinding tile cannot make a mirror, how can sitting in meditation make you a Buddha? This story is an enlightenment, helping people realize the true nature of meditation. So, what is meditation? It is not necessary to sit quietly for 15 minutes, half an hour, or even 2 hours until your legs go numb. If your heart is still entangled, full of attachments and thoughts you cannot let go of, then even meditating for 3 years is useless. True meditation is a way of life. Even when cooking in the kitchen, you can attain enlightenment and become a Buddha. The human mind will experience all kinds of thoughts and emotions, but the important thing is not to resist them. Allow everything to happen, accept everything that exists. They are powerful reminders that there are beings beyond our physical sight supporting and guiding us, evidence of the complex connection between us and the surrounding universe. We are part of the 6th extraordinary experience, where thoughts and intentions can be transformed into reality with astonishing speed and clarity. Her father was an official guarding the border. From a young age, she lived in a remote area, never seeing the splendor of the world, and did not even know she was very beautiful. One day, the king of the Jin state was touring and saw her, immediately taking her into the palace. She cried all the way because she had to leave her parents. But when she arrived at the palace, she was given delicious food and slept on a soft bed, and she thought, if only I had known, I wouldn't have cried. Zhuangzi said, how do you know death is suffering? Perhaps after death, I will live in the king's palace and regret not coming sooner. However, Zhuangzi did not encourage suicide. When he was nearing death, his disciples were very sympathetic. Master, you are a learned and erudite person, but your life has suffered too many setbacks. Therefore, when you pass away, we will invite friends and hold a grand funeral for you. Heaven and earth are my coffin. The sun and moon are decorations on my coffin. All things are funeral offerings for me. Why do I need another funeral? Just leave me in the wilderness. But then, hawks and vultures will eat your body if you take me from the mouths of hawks and vultures and bury me in the ground for ants to eat. Aren't you favoring ants? Zhuangzi spoke of his own body as if it were something unrelated. When you understand this principle, you will realize that your concern or lack of concern cannot change the situation. Instead of worrying, try to understand the meaning of life. As long as you are alive today, there must be a reason for your existence. According to records in the Zhuangzi Zilai, when Zhuangzi's wife passed away, his old friend Huizi saw Zhuangzi sitting by a jar, tapping it and singing. Huizi was surprised and reproached him. Your wife married you, bore children, nurtured the family, and worked hard for you her entire life. Now that she has passed away, it is already excessive that you do not cry. To tap a jar and sing is truly unacceptable. Zhuangzi calmly replied, when my wife first died, how could I not grieve? But upon reflection, before she had life, she had no body, no breath, no form. From non-existence came existence, then form. Now she has returned to non-existence. Is it not like the changing of spring, summer, autumn, and winter? Death is returning home. My wife has gone home to rest. For me to sit here and cry is truly ridiculous. From a broader perspective, death is also life, and life is also death. Between life and death, there is only a path, not separated, with no beginning or end. Understanding this principle, you will not be overly joyful when coming into life, nor see death as a disaster.